in his lifetime started painting him a pirate so that their head office in London could finance his Bombay Marine. What we know of the Indian Navy actually, ironically, was started as a response to Kanhoji Angre, and thankfully INS Angre. And I think that's a tip of the hat to our realization of how important he was to our naval efforts and at being able to basically delay the British successes in India. In the years of his lifetime, they were absolutely unable to make a dent. When it comes to battles fought, how they were fought, the times he was attacked. And it is true that once they were unable to dislodge him, they did attack him during his daughter's wedding. Well knowing that it is, he's celebrating it with his people. They would, attack him during religious festivals, knowing that they are doing, for example, during Nariyal Purnima, which is a very important festival here in the Konkan. And they did try their damnedest, but they were unable to beat him in his lifetime. Then governors of Bombay, it was not a presidency then, but the little fort town of Bombay, people like Charles Boone, in his lifetime started painting him a pirate so that their head office in London could finance his Bombay Marine. What we know of the Indian Navy actually, ironically, was started as a response to Kanhoji Angre, the Bombay Marine. And he petitioned London to give him finances to build a naval squadron locally. Earlier on, they would come in from Britain, commanders were sent in, but he wanted a local marine outfit for protection of the trade. And this later grew into the Indian Navy. However, the Western Command in Mumbai, Western Naval Command, it's what is known as a dry frigate, is called very gladly, and thankfully INS Angre. And I think that's a tip of the hat to our realization of how important he was to our naval efforts and at being able to basically delay the British successes in India. In the years of his lifetime, they were absolutely unable to make a dent. And then his two elder sons, Sekhoji and Sambhaji, were also able to control the Konkan for the Angrias. It's only after the passing of the two elder brothers, there was dissension not only amongst the brothers, the younger brothers, Angre brothers, but also between the Kolhapur and Satara problem had gotten worse. And now there was a third player in Maratha history, which were the Peshawars. And though they had started off as the prime ministers to the Chatrapati, they were their own power center. Of course, one must not forget that initially the very thought of having a navy was initiated by Chatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And he had the Sarang and even some Abyssinian warlords with him. And he created the first naval effort within the subcontinent, of course, excluding the Cholas who preceded him. But he used naval tactics very successfully. Unfortunately, after his passing, it had gone into decline. And then the Marathas, the Bhosles and the Peshwas tended to ignore the Konkan for the political games that were happening in India, because they rightfully realized that whoever has more power in Delhi is going to have more power deciding, the destiny of the entire subcontinent. So Delhi has always remained important. Unfortunately, I think in our textbooks, too important, where we forget the smaller stories in the outlying parts of India, whether they be the Konkan or Bengal or Kerala. And I think we really need to focus a bit more on that to see why the center was important. It's because the periphery was doing so well and was successful and was so rich. And these were entrepots to all the trade that was coming in and out of India and making it such a wealthy nation. I'm just very happy that in the government of India, at least, has recognized the importance of Kanhoji Angre. And we do find there used to be a cruise ship. Earlier on, it was only that cruise ship Mumbai Goa cruise ship that was called Angria. Now, of course, off 100 kilometers, there's a coral bank which is called the Angria Bank. INS Angre, we have some lighthouses. But I'm really hoping that every Indian student of history, every Indian gets to know about someone like Kanhoji Angre. He was so successful in his lifetime. He was a practical, reasonable man, a cosmopolitan man. After he was attacked during Nariyal Purnima, he made sure that either he had Muslim or what were called Topashi, Indo-Portuguese Christian soldiers amongst his garrison, so that if they went away for their festivals, someone else was there. And if his Maratha and Koli people garrison went away, there was someone always guarding his forts and providing security to the trade that was going on. He became so wealthy that he had to mint his own coins, and this is the Alibagi Rupaya, which was minted in silver. He got people from the former state of Bijapur to help him with this, and though it is on one side it is written in Persian and on the other it is in Marathi. It says Shri. This is Gopalgad, and these are his forts. They were usually built on montrees, and they were able to view all the trade that was passing through, and they could also provide cannon fire, so if someone was being chased, they would tend to come and seek refuge under the cannon fire of these forts. Of course, a lot of people would try to escape these kartazes, go out into the sea and get attacked by the real pirates. And we did have pirates from Muscat and further up north in Gujarat. Javanese were also roving this area, and even by that time European pirates had come in. So there is a very famous incident of the pirate Avery taking Aurangzeb's ship. That one ship was worth 52 lakhs at that point, which was worth more than the East India Company. And Avery, of course, is supposed to have escaped to Madagascar, but he was never caught. But 52 lakhs at that time was indeed an emperor's ransom. And so, yes, there were pirates at that time, but Kanhoji Angre definitely was not. He was given the Suba of Konkan, and he was given increased Watan lands, which his ancestors hold on to this day. His family is still in existence in Gwalior and in the Konkan in Alibag. Raghuji Raji Angre, gentleman I met who really helped me with my research, he is still there. Tulaji Angre, named after his ancestor, is in Gwalior with his family, descendants of the CS Angre branch. And we are very glad to have a great Indian hero at that time, because we have been fed this narrative that we were a primitive people, and it was obvious that the British, successful people, and it's just that we got outplayed by, thuggish people like Clive, who learnt our system and were able to just be more ruthless than we could have ever been. And that is where this is Sagar Gad Fort, which is on the Ghats, and anyone coming down the Ghats, Kanhoji Angre would have foreknowledge of it. There was a time when he actually marched on Satara, and the British used this to say, he even attacks his own supposed masters, but that was just a ploy. He was hoping to sort out the situation and become the Sarkhel. It was something he really wanted. It was a duty he was following, and he just wanted the recognition, which he was eventually given by Shahu Maharaj, who was the Chatrapati then, and he served under both three Sambhaji Maharaj, Rajaji Maharaj, and Shahu Maharaj. This is the famous Suvarnadarg fort where Kanhoji was born, and this is a very famous fort where Chatrapati Shivaji Maharaj has a flag post. He had put his Bhagwa pennant up here in his own lifetime. And so these images are just to show you the kind of geography and topography of the place. This is another image of Suvarnadurg Fort. I just hope the Archaeological Society of India, this is the fall of this is Durg Fort, his most important fort. This was attacked in 1756 by Clive, and Clive and the Peshawars jointly attacked Tulaji Angre with the assistance of his brother Manaji Angre. And that was the fall of the house of Angre as a great power. Of course, they still continue to exist at a lesser capacity, but at one point they were the single most important, powerful and richest family in all of the Konkan and the true rulers of the Konkan. I just really hope that our government and our archaeological society looks into the upkeep of these forts. Kanhoji Angre had built a fort every 30 kilometers. 30 kilometers being the distance his people could see through an eyeglass, telescope of the day. So he had eyes on the entire coast. They would say nothing flew or fish swam without him being privy to it. He had a system of spies everywhere, working for the European traders in Satara, absolutely everywhere, using very modern techniques of warfare, of intelligence gathering, and a very practical man. He never tried to throw anyone out. He tried to keep a balance so that people would bring in trade. But he was very clear on the fact that the Europeans must adhere to our norms and realize that this is some undiscovered land. It is heavily peopled. It has structures of government and power which need to be adhered to. And while he was alive, there was absolutely no problem. Had he lived longer or his sons lived longer, maybe, our entire history would have been different. But these are just assumptions. This is a painting by a British artist of the Battle of Gheria in Vijaydur and the fall of Vijaydur. And basically, this presages the colonial period. It is, I think, even before the Battle of Plassey, it is the Battle of Gheria in 1756 that ended, the death knell of independence for many years. And then, of course, the British used a system of collaboration, one against the other, continuously to take over large swaths of the subcontinent. And I hope you all have enjoyed this presentation and looking forward to any questions you may have.
I wanted to ask you, are the books in Maharashtra, the school books, do they cover G. Angreji's about him?
Very briefly, madam. Unfortunately, very brief. It is not even a paragraph. And of course, there is, NCERT is redoing our books. And I don't think it is a bad exercise, because we need to constantly be aware of new research, new attitudes, and bring them up for our students, And I think our history is a bit too Delhi heavy, too Mughal heavy, whereas, it is so varied that we do need to focus on other, people. People in Maharashtra should know about people in Tamil Nadu or Telangana and Andhra Pradesh or Bengal and vice versa. I think the only way we can have some national cohesion is if we know each other's heroes. Fortunately, in Kanhoji Angre's case, even there's very little. He's just mentioned in passing that there used to be so-and-so person, but very not detailed, unfortunately.
It's wonderful that you have done research on such an important topic at a time when the country is realizing that our national heroes have not been given their due importance. For you to put in that effort and do research and bring this topic on to Vishwa Talks so that people in the country are made aware of such local heroes is a commendable thing that you're doing.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I think what happens is that the British did not want us to know that we could be so successful. I think you want to hide the success stories. And, that is the problem. That's something we need to fight.
When did the Mughals become weak? In which years did the Mughals become weak? When did the Marathas take over? And I understand the Britishers have actually taken over the country from the Marathas and not the Mughals. So can you give us a little light on that?
Yes. So basically, the Mughals collapsed after the death of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was, a very conservative, bigoted ruler, but powerful militarily. But his policies had already started causing problems in the Punjab. And of course, Shivaji Maharaj, whose father was Aurangzeb was able to crush Bijapur and Golconda. But he thought, once he's done this, he's got a free reign all the way down south. But out pops Shivaji, and Shivaji just did not let this happen. And Aurangzeb died in 1707, and that is the end of the Mughal Empire, rather a powerful Mughal Empire. It collapsed after that because none of his sons, and of course the Mughals have this concept, the sons would fight to death. It was the coffin or the throne. So a civil war would break out every single time one of the emperors would fall. And 1707 was the end of a powerful Mughal empire. And in literally, Plassey was 1757. So in the next 50 years, end of story, and the British had become quite a powerful player in India.
Can you give us a little distinction about the Battle of Gheria in 1756 and the Battle of Plassey in 1757, and how this was a turning point for the Britishers?
Yes, the Battle of Plassey, again, the British allied with the Peshwa and with Manaji Angre and attacked Tulaji Angre and destroyed Gheria and the entire Angrian fleet. I think it was Clive's realization that they have India, even now, caste system is very important. And not anyone can become a ruler. One needs to be from the right caste, from the Kshatriya caste, and be a Jagirdar, basically a land owner or from that aristocracy, because only that caste is allowed to own land. Of course, the Peshwas were Brahmins, but one had to be a landowner. And I think Clive realized that as traders, they cannot make inroads. They needed to, I think his experience in the Konkan taught him that what he needs to do is become a Jagirdar. And once he was able to make the company a Jagirdar after the Battle of Plassey, then there was no looking back for the British. They were one of the many Jagirdars and Rajwadas then that started competing towards the primacy in Delhi of the throne.
By sharing the story of Kanhoji Angre, what is the impact we can have on the younger generation by sharing it in schools?
Well, I think being aware, so we are fighting this narrative that we were taken over by European powers because we were in any way primitive, or incapable. And that is just not true, because we see many examples in pre-colonial India of our extreme success and the fact that we were amongst the third largest economies and militarily also very competent. Over the years, it's taken on a racial tint, and it's something I just want to remind ourselves of, that this is not true.
So what I would like to say is, in India, when the Britishers left, they ensured that they killed the Indian education system, the Gurukul system. And even some of the leaders of that time were very influenced by the Western thought. And a lot of Western concepts about culture, about values, about success has been thrown on the Indian psyche, which has had a major impact integrating our family systems, leading to major problems. So now there is a slight realization that our history books have not been changed for 70 years after independence. Our local heroes are not recognized. So it is a commendable work that Sohail ji has done, where he is bringing out a local Navy commander who has laid the foundation for the Indian Navy in Mumbai.